Hey everybody, what's going on? We're here with this motor. It's out of a '07 Honda Ridgeline 3.5. I'm going to show you how to set up this timing. I had other videos in part of this, and some reason my phone just went crazy and made 3 videos out of one, the first one, and then the third video, 22 minutes of it just, disappeared somewhere, which really sucks. But anyways, I'm just gonna show you. I was showing you how to tear it all down, how to get the crank gear off and all that. I'm gonna have parts of those I'm gonna add back in here, just because some of it still has some good information on it. But right now I'm just gonna show you how to set your timing and make sure it's all correct. If you're gonna do this timing job, you're gonna want to do the water pump and the tensioner and all. And like I said in the other video, the import direct from O'Reilly's, if it's cheaper than what you can get your parts for from Honda, I would definitely get it because they come from the same manufacturer. Because that's why I call it import direct, because it's direct from the OE manufacturers for whatever import you're getting it for. So it's a really good kit. Comes with everything. Comes with a tensioner. Comes with a tensioner arm and pulley, water pump, idler pulley, and a new belt. And it also comes with vehicle specific information on how to do this. If you get stuck somewhere, you need to read it. Anyways, let's get started on this. First things first, when you're doing timing, you don't want to do it twice. So replace everything. If it's due, if your belt broke on one of these cars, you most likely have head damage and you'll need to have that fixed. You could just get a belt and throw it back on and see if you're lucky. You may or may not be. You don't have to put all this back together before, to just try and run it to see if it's going to be okay. You could just put the tracer on that holds it, balance shaft in place, and then put the pulley on and run it just like this, just to see if it's going to run good after belt snapped or something. But anyways, if your belt didn't snap, just change all this out. You're going to want to make sure you replace all these because you don't want to be in there again. So first things first, this one's actually already pretty much on top dead center. Just it's like a tooth off. But anyways, what you're going to do, get all your timing cover off, get everything out of the way so you can see the motor just like this, whether you're in or out of the car. Down here on the bottom of the crank, you're going to see a little triangle on one of the gears. Go ahead and mark that with a Sharpie, paint marker, whatever you want. You can just follow that if you want. It always helps. Just follow that same tooth all the way up, and just make a straight line all the way to the edge of that gear, just like that. Let's see if I can zoom in for you. There you go. See how I found this mark here, and then took the line all the way up the tooth, all the way up to the edge of the gear here. Sometimes it helps with visual. Now you'll see right here on the oil pump, this area right here, there's a little triangle. You're going to match that crank triangle up with this triangle. So we're not really hardly far off, so I'm just going to give it a little tweak. Oop. Motor likes to jump a little. Yeah, now you can see that it is lined up with the oil pump mark. Then you're going to go look to your cam gears up here. Zoom out a little for you. Let me bring this in. Now on your passenger gear, there's not going to be any numbers or anything. You're just going to see one line mark right here, and then there'll be one right above it. That's your timing mark on the rear bank. The motor's going to be in a car just like this. This is going to be your front bank, right in front of your radiator. This right here is going to be, if you were staring at the motor, it'd be on your left side, but they always judge everything from, you sitting behind it. So this is actually what they would call in the books the right bank, and the bank next to the radiator right here is going to be your left bank. So that's the way it is. Make your marks on the cam gear right here, and then look right in the timing cover. As you can see it right there, that's your timing mark on the timing cover that you want to line up your cam mark with. Very easy, very simple. And again, for visuals, if you want, you can just take this line here on your cam gear and then just run it all the way straight across your timing belt, and then that just makes it a little bit easier for you to see. Now here, if you can see, on the left bank, the bank in front of your radiator, right here you got a 1, 6, 3, 5, 2, 4. Now all these are the top dead center on the compression stroke of each cylinder. Every time this number, one of these numbers lines up with this mark on your timing cover, that's the bang time for that cylinder. So on this, you're just going to look for number 1, which is right here. Be a little line below each number. Mark that line, mark the number, and right on the number, right above number 1 right here is another mark. Just go ahead and mark it. Then just for visuals, follow that tooth all the way across your belt, which this ain't gonna matter. Just, like I said, this is just for visuals. You can do that when you put your new belt on if it doesn't have marks, so you can see for visuals. But this belt's gonna be going away if you're changing anyways. But this is just instructional. So just run that line across, and you can see that it clearly lines up with the timing mark. So now this motor's set at top dead center. Everything's in tune, everything's in time. Now you can take it off, take it apart, and change your belt. So first things first, go ahead and remove your tensioner. See, now your belt's loose. Now normally you'd take this all the way off. I was just going to leave it right here now so I can kind of push it back in place when I do it. But you'll be replacing this when you're doing your timing kit. So take this all the way off and get rid of it. Your new one's going to have a pin in it right here in the hole. And you want to make sure that you do not pull that pin out at any time until after you have your belt on and set and all your marks are good and you know that it's in time. So once you got it out of the way, just go ahead and pull your belt off. Just like that. Alright, now I don't think the new belts come with any marks on them, so I'm going to move it just for informational purposes because you're not going to have those marks to work with. Just take your new belt when you're going to put it back on, after you replace your water pump, after you've installed this new pulley, after you replace this, and after you put the brand new tensioner on with the pin in it. Do not pull the pin at this time. So go ahead and grab your belt, your new belt, slide it on here, make sure it's on there good and snug. A lot of times don't have it over the tensioner pulley here. This is going to be the last pulley you put your belt over. Just kind of let it rest right there like it is. But a lot of times when I'm doing timing jobs, I use binder clips to clip on here if I'm having trouble with the belt slipping as I'm putting it on. If you use vice grips, you can use those too, but just make sure it's a very gentle grasp on it. You don't want to hurt the belt at all. You don't want to hurt the teeth at all. Like I said, binder clips work really good for that. Just go ahead and get it around the rear If it's in the car, this would be the one near the firewall. You want to put it over that pulley first, then just take it, run it under your water pump. Coming up around this, you want to pull it pretty tight, because you don't want any slack right here at all. No slack. And pull it tight. Keep it going around. Like I said, binder clips work great for this. If you have a problem with it slipping, go ahead and clamp this again, and you'll have a clamp on both sides. Like I said, if you're using vice grips, make sure it's very gentle. And once you got both of them on there, it'll be tight here and here and hold together. These ones, some cars, it's more difficult and the belt tries to slip, but these ones tend to hold pretty good. So just bring it around the camshaft near the front of the radiator and make sure it's tight, make sure there's no slack. Should be like a guitar string, a little bit of flex but not a lot. And just bring it down around your idler pulley, keeping the belt tight, and run it down around your crank. Now this is probably where people mess up a lot of times, because they try and tell, I've heard people say, in certain motors, you time it a little bit off or whatever, one tooth off, so when you roll it around it'll be in time. I don't like to do that. Normally if I have a problem with getting the belt over the crank, all I'm going to do is take it just like this, and I'm just going to roll it back just a little bit until finally my belt falls into it. You notice at this time you can't get the belt over your tensioner. Okay, now you done rolled it back a little bit to help with belt insulation. You got your belt around, your belt's in each groove. Just go ahead and just turn it just a little bit, and that'll tighten up here, and it'll put your crank back in line. And then, with your tensioner out of the way, it'll be really easy. You can see you got all this slack right here. And that's good. You want all your slack, when you're done, you want it all to be on the tensioner side, because the tensioner is going to take up all that slack. If you have slack here, if you have slack here, if you have slack here, you did something wrong, do it again. So recap once again: when you put your belt on, run around this gear first. This is going to be the one near the firewall. Down around your water pump, keep it real tight. As long as your marks are all lined up, it'll be easy for you to get the belt on here. Each cam. Roll around this cam, keeping it tight. Roll it around your idler pulley, and roll it down to your crank. And like I said, if you're having trouble getting it on the crank, sometimes you will, just back it off just a little bit until finally your belt falls in the groove. And then just take it and reverse your ratchet and take up all that slack. There'll be a little slack here when you do that. You just roll it back clockwise again, and it'll take up all the slack, and your timing mark will once again be in place. And then you should very easily, even with the new tensioner installed, be able to get it over your tensioner pulley. Now sometimes I've been trying to get it on and I couldn't get it on here. I was having trouble for whatever reason, and usually in the car, because sometimes it's harder to see. Usually sometimes the belt will be slipped off of this cam a little bit, because it has a little raised portion that kind of tracks it and keeps it in line, and it'll just been slipped off just a little bit. So if you're having trouble getting it over your tensioner pulley, make sure this isn't slipped out a little bit, and just push it back in there if it is, and you should be able to get on your tensioner pulley just fine. And you should be able, like I said, you'll already have your new tensioner installed with a pin in, so it'll be further back than mine is right now. And then just once you got that done, recheck all of your marks. Make sure everything's good. If everything is good at that point, go ahead and pull that pin out of your tensioner, and that's going to pop out a couple millimeters, and that'll take all the slack out of the tension side right there. Now even so, you say you got it all set, everything's in line, you pop the tensioner out, that's good. Don't put it back together and then start the car. Just go ahead and roll it around one time, check it good. If you still have questions and maybe it look a little off, Roll it around a second time. If it's still good, then you're good to go. Go ahead and bolt everything back together. It should start up perfect. You shouldn't have an issue with it. So once again, mark here, marking the timing cover. Mark here, number 1. This front cam near the radiator side will always have these numbers on it. You want to make sure that 1 is up and in line with the mark on the timing cover here. And then down on the crank here, you got this little triangle right here, and a triangle on the oil pump right here. As long as those all line up after you roll that motor back around, you're solid, good to go. Put it back in the car. You should not have an issue with it, and you've set your timing. Good job. This will work for 3.0s, 3.2s, 3.5s, and I think the Honda 3.7s are the same as well. You know, if I'm wrong on that, you know, you can just tell me, I'll change it. But it should work for all of those. They're all the same type setup. So, you know, even back to, I think the 2000 V6 Accords are just about similar. I forget, there was something different about the tensioner. I think it had a different type of tensioner. It was a little small and had a little bracket that slides over it, and then when you set all your timing, you pull that bracket out and set up a pin, but the timing's still the same. So like I said, just make sure all your marks are good before you take it apart and after you take it apart and roll it around 1 or 2 times. You know, the crank is always going to go around twice for 1 rotation of the cam because they're double the size. So if you roll it around 1 time, I'm talking about 1 complete revolution of all cylinders. You know, if you roll a crank around 1 time and line it back up here, you're going to be 180 off on your cams because the crank has to rotate twice before you get back to top dead center of cylinder 1, which you can tell by the number 1 here lining up with the mark on your timing cover. So make sure all that's good and you should be set to go. Anyways, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope this helped. You know, if you got something you're struggling with, any kind of vehicle, I'll work on them all. Turbos, non-turbos, you know, 650, twin turbos, BMWs, whatever. Like this bad boy on the lift right here, 650i, V8 twin turbo. She's a monster. Anyways, ask me anything. Like, subscribe, share, comment. You know, I like doing this. I do this to help people. So, you know, let me know your thoughts and what you need or what you want to know, and I'm sure I can come up with something. Thanks for listening. Later.